Alright, good afternoon. Yeah, it is afternoon here. I've decided that I've got the rocker covers off. I'm going to do a little video on the rocker cover gaskets. So these ones show signs of that have been leaking, only mildly. And since I've got them off at the moment, I might as well change them. So I'm going to pull the old gasket out, and that's basically it. So I've got the rocker cover off. I didn't show taking it off, but I'll probably show putting it back on. So there's the old gasket there. This one's not so bad. They do get rather dry and brittle and hard, and they don't seal. And so it comes the time to replace them with a new one. So that's the old one. Just a little bit hard and a little cracked in places, and I'm going to end up putting the new one on. So I'll just drop that out of the way. So the new one, you can see it already. It's rather flexible. And ready to go in pretty much. Silicone gasket, that's what I really mean. And they basically need to sit in there. Need to make sure that everything's clean inside, that there's no traces of any old dirt, and if there's any old sealant in there, like silicone sealants or all that sort of stuff that people use, get rid of all that as well. So basically that gasket that's there, that's come in the kit, should not need any form of other assistance apart from itself. So it shouldn't need any silicone sealants, any gasket cement or anything like that. In my own car, I put a set in, and they weren't the highest quality though, and when I put those in, I made sure I cleaned them out. There was silicone in there. I got rid of all the silicone, cleaned out the groove in there really well, and put the new gaskets in. Just tension them down nicely, and they do not leak. One of the most painful things with these are when you flip them over, that gasket likes to fall out, and I can see somebody's done here what I would be doing with it as well, and that is you tend to squish the inside of that in a bit, and it holds it in place while you're putting it back together. So I'm just going to, oops. So I'm just going to bend that back out a little bit, so that gasket in. So this doesn't look like it's had any gasket cement in it, so it shouldn't. So it's been pretty easy to clean out. So if anybody's ever taken yours off or whatever, and they've put gasket sealant in there or whatever the case may be, then you actually need to get all that out. What will happen? You get a little bump underneath under the proper gasket, and that bump will be where the oil will start leaking from. I believe that both of those are the same. You've got two gaskets you get for these, and pretty much they're both the same. Fit in like so there. And as I said, they are a bit of a pain to get and holding in there and staying in there. Once they're in, they stay in. That's pretty much fine. So it'll sit proud. Okay. This one must be a bit of a pain. I'm going to squish it about there. So what I'm trying to do is just squishing the insides of the rocker cover in a little bit. Don't want to squish the outside. Got to hold your tongue right here. So all I can say about this gasket is it seems a little bit small. It just wants to keep popping out of the groove slightly. So it's been a little bit difficult. And once it's in, you're pretty right. The main thing is when you turn it over, they want to pop out. And it's not so bad in the front bank to handle, but in the rear bank, it's a real pain. Okay, so I'll squish that over in a bit. Hopefully that'll be enough to hold it in place. And it'll stay there when we go to put it together. So I'll just move the camera over to the car. Okay, and I'll just make sure that it's focused the right way. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll just turn that down a bit. There we go. And so you need to change the seals on the top of the spark plug tubes as well. So I'm doing that. cleaning those, and making sure that mating surface on the cylinder head is very clean as well. So once again, if that's had silicone on there, you're going to need to get all that silicone off. Any little trace of silicone will cause a bump underneath the gasket, and that's where it's going to leak in particular. Any silicone, any dirt, any traces or anything like that needs to come off. Okay, so if you have to scrape it with a blade or something like that, well, scrape it with a blade to get it off, because it needs to be absolutely clean of any dirt or anything like that. Because anything like that, you'll lose the integrity of your seal. Okay, I'm going to get that stuff out of the way. Just making sure that's all clean. Okay. New tube seals over there as well. So don't forget to do those when you buy a kit. Make sure they've got those in them. Sometimes they don't, if you're just buying the gasket, because they get hard as well, and quite possible they'll leak oil down into the tubes. And while you're at that and cleaning everything up, make sure that the inside of the rocker cover is clean in that surface as well. Okay, so just making sure that the bottom of those tube wells, where the tube seals go on the rocker cover, is clean as well. Once again, any little lumps and bumps there will make that leak oil, and you'll get oil down in tube spark plug tubes. And I don't know whether, if they fill up, what they'll do for your spark plug. Probably won't run properly. I don't know how conductive oil is. I've never had that issue. I've had it with water before down the spark plug tubes and causing it to misfire. Okay, alright, so that looks like it's ready to go on. Making sure that that gasket doesn't fall out. That's the biggest problem. They like to fall out when you're at this stage here. Okay, so that's stayed in there, so we're lucky. To put the bolts in, I just put them in starting off one hole. You've got to get past your silicone gasket there, and just get it so that bolt's going to get started in the cylinder head. Remember it's aluminium again, so if you cross thread those easy if you get it wrong, and you don't want to strip that thread. Alright, that one started. Went off a bit just so you can move that rocker cover around a little bit for lining up your holes. If you tighten up one to start with, will be a bit more than finger tight, and you can't move that rocker cover around, you might have trouble lining up a few other holes. Okay, so that there hits back into place there. Ratchet. There we go. And just need to tighten those down evenly all the way around. Just feel that, so it just starts, you can just feel it start to tension up and start to squash that gasket, and just move around like that basically. So with tightening this up, my experience is that you tighten them up so that the metal flange on the rocker cover gasket is down on the aluminium, and that's enough to, that's what you need to do to seal it up. Okay, so just wind those up bit by bit. Now, something else with these as well, I've done this on an engine that was not looked after very well. It breathed a little bit. So I fixed the valve cover gaskets, and next thing you know, it started leaking oil out blowing oil out the oil filler cap. So I put a new seal on the oil filler cap, and it still tried to blow oil out. that PCV valve. I replaced the PCV valve, and that was it. Stopped any of the rest of the oil coming out of the engine. So that's another good thing. If you got to, you do this and you're still leaking some oil, change your PCV valve. See, as I'm tightening it up, I'm not on the end of the handle or anything like that. Tighten up super tight. That's about as tight as we want to get there. So it's fairly light on there. At least the front one you can get there and retension if something, loosens them a bit, but that's it. I've never had them come loose anymore at all. So I'm just going to go around those, feel that they're about even. Okay, so that's the rocker cover gasket changed. On the front one, of course, to do the rear one, you've got to take the intake manifold off. It's not a big or hard job. In my video with the spark plugs, you see that the intake manifold is relatively easy to come off as well. Probably about half an hour to take it off, and have the same to put it back on again. If you're changing your spark plugs at all, it's the time to do the rocker cover gaskets. If you're doing rocker cover gaskets, it's time to think about, do I need to do my spark plugs? Anyway, so there you go. It's not a hard job, once again. Probably do it in an hour and a half or something like that. So there is just one other thing to consider with the rear rocker cover, is that you've got two bolts that are from the timing case cover, one up here and just one back down here. You'll find them if you look for them. So they actually bolt the timing case cover onto a flange on the rocker cover as well. So you just need to be aware of that when you're trying to juggle it off. Don't forget those, because it won't come off otherwise. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.